Okay, had a great meeting today. So a group that I'm part of, the Maryland Association of Independent Brokers, we met with the Maryland Association of Realtors attorneys and discussing this upcoming Nar settlement, what's going on, and changes that we're going to be expecting in our industry. So I thought it was a great meeting. Every time I meet on this, I just have more confidence that the direction we're moving in, we're going to be okay. We're going to survive. We're going to get through this whole change. And so what I want to do is give a quick overview of things that were discussed in that meeting. And I took notes on 6 things that I would like to share with you and kind of break down the changes that we're going to start seeing that are going to be coming into our business. So number one, unless you're living under a rock, buyer agency commission will not be advertised in the MLS come July. Okay, there's 3 different ways that agents are going to be able to charge or earn commission in a real estate transaction after July. So 3 different options of getting paid is going to be a fixed pay or fixed fee. So inside your buyer agency agreement, you're going to have a fee that you charge to your buyer, and your buyer is going to pay that fee. Number 2 is through seller concession. So through contract negotiation, you're going to negotiate concessions that will pay that fee. This is something we're really going to touch base on because there's a lot of changes that are coming around that concessions that I think it's going to be kind of the norm moving forward, in my personal opinion. The third way that you can get paid is through shared commissions. So the listing brokerage can share commissions in that transaction with that buyer brokerage. So it's really 3 ways: fixed fee, seller concession, shared commissions. And we're going to kind of break that down into things that we discussed in this quick video. So going into the point number 1, they are expecting some delays in the settlement. So I think they were anticipating in the first week or so in July that the settlement would occur. Then the MLS is going to be changing. No longer will they have buyer agency commission inside of the MLS. Now, we're being told that that's being kind of pushed to the end of July. So we're anticipating July 30, 31st, that this implementation, buyer agency commission, will no longer be. So there's a little bit of delay in the settlement, but we're anticipating that's going to be at the end of July. Number 2, a lot of your companies are starting, or not a lot of your agencies, like you have FHA, Fannie and Freddie, which is conventional, are changing the limitations on concessions. Okay, so in an FHA loan, the max seller concessions were about 6%. Okay, so what they're saying is, if we now as agents, say you're charging 2.5% as a buyer agency commission, and the total is 6%. If your client needs 6% concessions and you negotiate 6, you can also have an additional 2.5% that will not affect the amount your buyer can get. So inside of your max concessions for Fannie, Freddie, so it's FHA and conventional, you can still get your percentage in a concession that will not limit your client to the maximum concession that loan product offers. So I think it's really big. VA has not come out with a determination on whether they're going to allow for agents' commissions to be paid through concessions. And from the attorneys talking today, I don't know if that's going to even be settled before we see this change implemented in July. So VA is giving no indication on their stance on allowing this. So concessions moving forward will be able to be negotiated and will not affect the maximum concessions that your client can get on an FHA or conventional loan, which is awesome. Number 3, the Bright. So inside of Bright, once this implements in July, obviously the buyer agency commission is going to be removed, but we're going to see there's going to be a yes or no for concessions if the seller is willing to pay concessions. Now, I do not want you guys to get this confused. You cannot say anything about concessions or commissions. So what they're saying is there will be a box in there in the MLS, similar to where you saw your agency commission, that will say if that seller is willing to pay concessions and what that concession amount will be. So it'll be yes, no. If yes, what amount are they willing to pay in concessions? So it's going to be something moving forward. I think a lot of these agency commissions, very similar to the way commercial real estate is negotiated, commissions are going to be negotiated in the contract of that sale. So, they're in the form of concessions, or, if you look at it, I always believe in just to break down how commissions always worked. Ultimately, the buyer always did pay commissions. When you go to settlement on a home, and say a buyer is buying a home at $500,000 and there's 5% total commissions to the listing and buyer agent, at settlement, the buyer had to come to the table with $500,000, whether they borrowed it from a bank, they brought it in down payment, they paid it in cash, however it was, the buyer paid that commission. The seller agreed to that a less amount. So when we look at it, you got to always think about moving forward is how are we all going to come around to the number? It's just a different way we're coming to that number that our buyer and seller agree on. So you just have to remember we're going to be changing the way we do business, but it's not going to change how we earn off of our business. Okay. So you have to really understand how concessions work and how you can negotiate to, if you're an agent. That's why a lot of people, you hear about these, a lot of podcasters, people on video saying that, we're going back to a professionals industry. One of the rules that are changing is that you have to have an agency agreement signed before you meet with a client. That means that a client is willing to pay you before they even meet with you. You have to add a lot of value in your business. If you're an agent that doesn't have a lot of value, you don't put a lot of effort into your business and keeping your business professional, you're going to really struggle moving forward. So let's move on. So number 4, broker's website. So everything's gonna be negotiated off site. So you can no longer in the MLS will there be buyer agency compensation, and that includes, you can't upload buyer agency compensation in the seller disclosures. You can't have, I've heard some people talk about like, well, we'll just put it in a showing time. So showing time's not the MLS, cannot put it inside of showing time. So what I was told by the attorneys today is that it will be in a broker's website off MLS that will be able to offer compensation to buyer brokerages. Okay, so brokerages are going to be coming up with maybe their own systems that have websites or landing pages that have compensation on them that are not included inside of the MLS. So that's going to be on brokers' websites. Number 5 is there's going to be a lot of revisions to forms. The forms, there's a lot of forms that are changing inside of the listing agency. So in your listing documents, that your exclusive agency listing agreements will have compensation in there and concessions. So the changes are going to be is, are you offering compensation to a buyer brokerage? So if you have commissions on that broker's landing page that's not in the MLS, it has to be agreed upon. And if they're offering any kind of concessions that can be applied to that buyer brokerage commission, that's going to have to be agreed upon in the listing broker. So the main thing is, and the same thing with the buyer agency commissions, you're going to have to put your concessions in, your fixed fee, what you're charging, how you're going to, charge them, or, really how you're going to be paid in the process. So that's all going to be spelled out in disclosures. There's going to be multiple disclosures inside of the agreements that are going to change compensation. So just be, and I'm told that these addendums, revisions to the contracts will probably be about 6 weeks prior to the changes being implemented. So we're probably thinking middle of June, we're going to see a lot more documentation that are coming out, and you can see the changes that are going on as far as the NAR changes that are going to happen the end of July. So form revisions. The next thing is like best practices. I mean, one of the things they really, spent some time talking about is best practices. We got to talk compensation. I think the whole reason that we're where we are is that, agents there was a fixed compensation that was on the MLS, and we never really explained how compensation worked to our clients. Sellers just felt like they had to pay agency compensation to a buyer brokerage. And, a lot of agents out there didn't get agency agreements signed, or would just say, hey, my services are free. It's being paid by the seller. Ultimately, commissions are being paid by both parties. Either the seller's taking that less amount or the buyer's paying that full amount. So commissions, and the reason we're at this lawsuit is that people need to understand how commissions work. And you need to, as a real estate agent, understand how we're going to be negotiating these commissions moving forward and be fully transparent with your clients. So the next thing is always getting things signed. We're going to have so many forms. Maryland is form. We're going to have a lot of forms. We're going to make sure we have these disclosures up front. Some of the things you cannot say, even if they're paying the commissions in concession, you cannot say your services are free unless your services are free. If you're doing a real estate transaction pro bono and not charging anything, then you can put in your agency agreement that you are not charging, you are free. So you really got to be cautious about the terminology moving forward. The terminology cannot say free or at no cost. Okay, moving forward, there is cost associated with our agency agreements moving forward. So these are the quick updates moving forward. Just remember, we're going to be doing a lot of trainings from now to the end of July. Most of this is going to be implemented right now, estimated July 30, 31st. We're going to make these changes, but don't change your business then. Change it now, okay? We're going to start working towards these changes. Start talking to your clients. Start practicing having these conversations about commissions now, not when they're implemented. It's something we've always done in our business. I've always explained compensation to my buyers and sellers. You just want to start practicing now so you're very familiar when these changes are implemented. So we'll be doing a lot more training. Just want to get you this quick video on how and things that are going on with Maryland. And as we get more information on forms and everything, we'll bring them right to you guys.